Mark here from WhiskyWhistle. Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye, new versus old. What's the difference? Is there a difference? Stay tuned for the Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye WhiskyWhistle. Hey everybody, Mark here from WhiskyWhistle, your wise choice in independent whiskey and spirits reviews. Bringing you another special WhiskyWhistle. This one is a WhiskyWhistle versus special series, and that is Crown Royal versus Crown Royal. Northern Harvest Rye versus Northern Harvest Rye. What I have here on my left, on your right, is one of the original batches of Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye. Let's get that poured. This is from Canada, and that was bought in Manitoba in, let's say, about November, right around the time that Jim Murray gave that Whiskey of the Year from his special whiskey ranking, his whiskey Bible. All right, and what is this one here? This is a current batch, well, an export batch for USA, probably for duty-free, and that is Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye, a 1 liter. This was bought here in Seoul, South Korea earlier this year in 2018. Might have been December of 2017. Let's get that one poured. There we go. All right, now here on WhiskyWhistle, what I like to do is compare the color and then check out the legs of the whiskey. Then we'll get into the nosing, the tasting, and the finish before giving it a WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for these two whiskeys. So let's get right onto that, shall we? All right, the color first of all. One thing I notice about this, and I'll let you see that yourself, is that these are actually different colors. The old version is slightly lighter, and the new version slightly darker. Can you get a sense of that there? Anyway, to my eyes, the old one, this, by the way, this is a Canadian market whiskey, and the new one, which is an American market whiskey, these are about a shade off in terms of color. Anyway, interesting. Okay, now let's check out the legs of the whiskey. We'll do that for both of the new and the old. Are there any differences there? Let's find out. Let's see if I can do that. There we go. Well, fairly slow legs actually for both of them. The original one really hangs on the glass though. Interesting. Also, these are 45% ABV, which I forgot to mention. Canadian whiskeys from Gimli, Manitoba. All right, now then, let's check out the noses first. Let's start with the new version of Crown Royal. This is from late 2017, maybe early 2018. So it was imported here to Seoul, South Korea, so it could be a few months earlier than that, maybe around the fall of 2017 in terms of production date and month. Here we go. Oh. Now the first thing that I get with this one is a lot of alcohol. This is really very potent. There's a little bit of rye in the background, a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of cinnamon. But the alcohol is really very overpowering. That's really hard to smell, in fact. Now let's check out the original version of Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye right over here. This one is so buttery smooth on the nose. Caramel, vanilla, a little bit of apple, in fact. A little bit of rye mint. Oh, just a very nice beautiful scent for a Canadian whiskey. It's very refreshing. Now, the new one will settle down, however, and it's come around slightly, but still very, very sharp on the nose. Okay, let's check out the palate on these. Again, I'll start with the new one first. Cheers, everyone. Woohoo! Very potent, very sharp, and I get wafts of alcohol coming up my nose, in fact. Boy, is this the same whiskey? The flavors are nice. Again, you've got that mint and you've got that vanilla, a little bit of caramel. The typical Crown Royal banana, however, is not here at all in this Northern Harvest Rye. And the finish, fairly long, very dry. Dry rye spices. In fact, the finish is about the nicest thing from that new Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye. Now let's check out the palate and the finish for the original Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye. And I should have a little bit of water before I do that. Cheers again. So nice to taste. The rye is very potent. Very nice minty rye mixed in with that delicious caramel and vanilla. And I really get a sense of fresh Granny Smith apples here. The finish also, even drier, interestingly. In fact, much longer as well. I can feel it on my teeth that it's very astringent. This will do wonders in a nice cocktail. All right, let's add a little bit of water to these and see what happens. Swish them about. All right, now first of all, the new Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye. With water, it is still very angry. Nothing really has changed. I'm noticing a little bit more caramel. But mostly the same. And the palate. With water, you get a little bit of rye spices, but also you get something kind of like cream soda. That's nice. However, it is still very alcohol forward for this. I think this is really suited for ice or for mixing, this new one. Vanilla cream soda with your minty rye spices. The finish also still very nice. All right, well now let's get on to the original Northern Harvest Rye with water added. Now I'm not getting very much rye. What I'm getting is a lot more rich vanillas. Vanilla bean, salted caramel toffees, and a little bit of something kind of like a slight leathery scent here is noticed. I'm noticing. Why am I using the passive? Okay. Oh, and there's also some kind of cooking spices like cardamom, maybe a bit of coriander, a hint of thyme. And I think that's what comes from age. We'll talk about that in a minute though. All right, on to the palate now. Cheers. With water. This is such a flavorful whiskey. Lots of rye spices, minty, what we call dusty rye. That's a little bit dry, a little bit astringent, a bit of mint, a bit of like menthol, maybe even eucalyptus. And yet also it's got some beautiful vanillas, a bit of caramel, a bit of salt, and a little bit of these unusual types of leathery sort of flavors, which is very nice for me. Okay, one more taste. And the finish. Similarly dry, but a little bit more flavorful and a little bit longer than the new version of Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye. Now, before we get on to the Whiskey Whistle Whiskey Score, let me just remind you to subscribe to the channel right over here. Hit that button, hit the subscription button, and like this video. Give it a thumbs up, give it a comment. That'd be really great for me. And guess what? If you want to do even more than that, get onto Patreon and become a patron of Whiskey Whistle. Get involved there. You'll get a newsletter. You'll also get 24 hours advanced viewing of videos before they have ads added. So ad-free viewing, and before anybody else can watch them. So that might be of value to you. I hope so. So get involved there on Patreon. Now then, the Whiskey Whistle Whiskey Score for these. Let's see, make sure they're in the right place. Yep. All right, we have... All right, so we've got the original Northern Harvest Rye right over here. And then we have the new version, the latest version of Northern Harvest Rye on this side. This is an American export. It's all in English. This one, however, has French on it. Okay. Now let me just put those down. All right. So, what is the Whiskey Whistle Whiskey Score going to be for these? Well, I have to say I'm very proud of this one. This is fantastic, and Diageo and Crown Royal did a great job creating a new product, one that everybody just wants to buy. That Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye is very special, and I'm very happy to say that I have a case and a half of this at home with me in Winnipeg. All right, anyway, so that Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye, the original batch, I am going to give this 87 out of 100. Yep, you heard right, 87 out of 100 for Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye, the original version. Now over here, the new version, an American export for Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye. What am I going to give that one? And that is going to be 79 out of 100. Yes, you heard right. 79 out of 100 is the Whiskey Whistle Whiskey Score for Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye, the current version. Now, why the discrepancy? Well, first of all, this one is clearly older. A much older whiskey. Doesn't have any sharpness when you're smelling it or tasting it. Versus the current one. As you saw, I had a hard time taking a whiff of this one. Now, it's still a nice whiskey, especially for the price. about $35 Canadian gets you the 750 milliliter bottle in Canada. This is actually 60, I think 60,000 won, 80,000 won here in Seoul, South Korea. Now, this one is clearly younger. That's because that's one of the first batches and they really wanted to show off their wear. Now the brand has been established and people buy it willy-nilly, so they can cut a few corners, and I think that's what's happened here. Color-wise also, how can an older whiskey be lighter in color than a new whiskey? And we can see that not only in the bottle, but we can also see that in the glass, that the older version is especially lighter than the older version is especially lighter than the newer. And well, the only way that can happen is by adding some caramel colorant, E150A, to the new version. So it's younger, it's had color added, and not only that, since this is an American export, most likely this has the 9.09% or 1 out of 11 of American spirit added to this in order to lower the excise taxes for USA. And I'm guessing that those are exactly 2 years old. That's the minimum requirement for Canadian whiskey for that 9.09%. And I'm guessing that's also probably very, what you'd call just straight you would call basic American whiskey, not straight, American whiskey. It doesn't have to be a certain percentage at distillation. It doesn't have to be a certain percent at casking, but this has to be a minimum of 2 years old. So in terms of global marketing, the global kind of whiskey aficionados mindset, this is 2-year-old whiskey. Meanwhile, this one I'm guessing is probably 5, 6, maybe even 7 years old. Anyway, so quite a big difference in product, quite a big difference in taste, and also in value. So if you can get your hands on a Canadian bottle, I think you'll be better off. If you can get your hands on an American bottle at a good price, it'll be okay for mixing. It might not be the best for sipping, however. Anyway, so that's my re-review of Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye, 87 for the original version and 79 for the new version. Anyway, that was the WhiskyWhistle versus Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye versus Crown Royal Northern Harvest Rye. That's a mouthful, isn't it? And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to click that subscription button and check out the Patreon account, everyone, okay? Take care, everyone. Stay tuned for what's to come. There is so much more coming very soon. Goodbye now. Thanks for watching WhiskyWhistle. Be sure to subscribe, and don't forget to give this video a like, and leave a comment down below. Be sure to stay tuned next time to join me, the host of the show, Mark, as I explore more whiskeys with you. Take care now, and we'll see you next time.